Hello, I'm Mark.
I'm Casey.
And I'm Patrick.
And today we're going to talk about PreFab Superchargers that Tesla puts out. But first, let's roll that title card.
You're watching the Tesla Life Express!
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us today. Wanted to talk a little bit about this article that came out this week from a Tesla exec as they talked about the benefits, I guess, of PreFab Superchargers that, of course, are made in Buffalo, New York area. So the Gigafactory in Buffalo has been making superchargers for quite some time, and one of their, of course, updates that they were able to perform was to put 4 chargers on a slab of concrete, along with I guess it'd be an electrical charging.
Yeah, so you get 4 dispensers and 1 cabinet, one charger, and
one
4
cabinet.
outlets.
Yeah. So actually, let's just share a photo of this.
Yeah, and they started this back in the V3 days, like the pure V3s, and they've continued on with the V3 pluses, which are V4 dispensers on V3 cabinets.
So you can see in this particular case on this flatbed that we've got 2 sets. We've got 4 chargers in the front and 4 chargers on the other side, each with a charging cabinet, the big white box
attached.
Exactly. So this, of course, allows them to roll up to a charging site that's under construction and to be able to crane these items into place and eliminate some of the the digging or the trenching because, of course, in the concrete, they've got some of that conduit already laid out, attaching the 4 chargers to the electrical charging box.
Yep, and then they've got some other conduit ready to go to attach it to the site.
Right.
That also means they don't have anybody measuring and crimping and cutting right there on site, digging, and your permits get a lot easier. And this is kind of like the assembly line, as close as you can get to the assembly line for physical different places, because you can't really bring all these different sites into an assembly line and then put them back where they came from.
Right. We need a massive amount of infrastructure put in place for our transition to electric transportation. And doing smart stuff like this absolutely helps, because having that conduit already there means you just plug and play, and it's so much simpler. Because at my work, we were installing EV chargers, and they were just level 2. They weren't this high power stuff. But dealing with the site facilities guys, they were like, oh, they have to go here or here. And I'd go, well, shouldn't we put them over here? Wouldn't this be better? And they were like, oh, no.
It'd be another $20,000.
Exactly. Yeah, it like tripled the price, because we'd have to do a bunch of trenching under the parking lot to get there. So instead, they had to go where the electricity was available, so with short runs. And so if you can instead have all of that conduit built in and not have to do any trenching or minimal trenching, that saves a lot of cost and time and effort and all these things. And I kind of wonder if this started with Tesla trying to do. They have some that they keep on the back of semis that they use to supplement during holidays and other things, and then they can move them where they're needed. And so if they had to build that to go on the back of the truck, if they were like, hey, why aren't we doing this all the time?
Right, this fits. Why don't we do it all this way?
Yeah, I don't know if that's how that came about, but it's an interesting. And we talk about how innovative Tesla is all the time. They don't just do things the way everybody else has always done them. They're always looking for newer, better, faster, cheaper. Right. And that allows it to be scalable. And that's exactly what we need.
And they've done this 2 times before on much smaller scale inside your own home. The Powerwall installs, they've got the gateway used to be a separate box, and now you can actually put it right behind the power meter as a collar. And then also with your we used to have the V1 and V2 Tesla wall connectors. They had to be wired in and put on there, and now you can either have a junction box or have it put on there, and then the charger just clips on there. So if you have a malfunction, I had a friend who had this happen. His V3, the Wi-Fi stopped, and something happened inside and didn't want to release the charge anymore. And they sent him the whole thing, and he just took his old one off the base and sent it back to them, and then popped the new one on with the breaker turned off, and he didn't need to call an electrician or anything. It took him 5 minutes. And then he had to do the Wi-Fi and reconfigure the code, so maybe 10 minutes total. And this is the same concept with the superchargers. Mark, you got the photo of what it used to be like? Or what it's like at the boutique stores, sites? Because they still do it this way as well. But you'll notice that these are the ones that tend to take 3 months, 6 months, a year from digging into the ground to being able to plug in your car.
Take a look for that, Casey. I don't have it in front of me, but one thing I wanted to mention was that Max de Ziegler, who is exec at Tesla for supercharger installations, he indicated that a lot of the superchargers are now pre-assembled in factories like Giga New York, making the installation process again faster, better quality, and cheaper. The cost savings are being passed along to the drivers in the never-ending hunt to add efficiency to Tesla's procedure. So not a surprise that, again, they're looking at how it works a little bit better, adding that to the process and updating their builds.
Yeah, and right now these come out of Giga Buffalo and Giga Shanghai. Obviously, regionally, I don't know if Giga Berlin has been tasked with helping out with any of this type of work because they get their hands full making Model Y. And not that Shanghai doesn't, but they're really industrious. They're the export hub of the world, as Elon calls it. And then this is all that Giga Buffalo does is like the solar and electrical stuff. So they were already set up to do this, which is cool.
So this tweet here, the photo you're showing, the before is on the left and the new process
the before
is on the right?
and the customs, because they still do that, but if they can, they'll do the one on the right. They call it a pallet. You pick up the supercharger itself by the crane, or you pick the pallet up by the crane, and you just kind of skim the ground with a backhoe, get it all so when you set it down, that this concrete is level with the concrete at the site, or as you saw at the end of our live show last week, where you could inset it into the ground and just make it part of their drive-through infrastructure for charging at that particular site.
Right, but there's nothing wrong with having a curb there if you can just want to put it on level
right,
ground.
Yeah, so you can line it up with the curb, or you can put it down into the ground, or the reason you don't want it to be just a random step up is it's only as thick as the supercharger, and it's like
it could get hit too easy.
Yeah, it makes it easy to injure yourself. So they don't always do it. Sometimes they just leave it proud, but usually they put it down at least a little bit, if not fully level.
And in their previous photo, when they showed them on the flatbed, they had integrated bullards into it as well. So probably a little bit wider in that particular case to allow the bullard space to be mounted into the concrete in front of the charger as well.
Yeah, I think the reason they don't do that anymore is now that most of the superchargers that are going in are open to everyone. They have to make it easy enough for those F-150s and Mustang Mach-E's to nose up to it, and then you also save on some concrete. But the other cool thing about this is the integrated conduit, not just to connect to the site, but they can connect to each other. So each one actually isn't really rated at the full load to handle all of them charging at one time at full speed. But what happens is we do the every other stalls like they trained us to do back on the V1 days and the V2 days, and then just the way that humans line up and gather, there will be gaps. And so if you've got a whole unit that's not doing anything, it can share power over here and power over here with its neighbors to help bring them up so they can all do full speed at all the stalls the whole time. The other thing of it is we've seen the charging curves, right, where unless you have like a hey, let's go see the fall leaves, or like a club meet where they're going from one place to another, you rarely have more than 2 to 4 cars per like 15, 16 stalls that all arrive at the same time empty. So some are already ramping down, and so that new one can take the full charge as it is. But say that club comes through and it's at a 16 stall, the ones that are not as fully loaded can then send their power across the parking lot to the other one. I know they can do 3. I think they can do more depending on how the site is set up. So that is pretty cool. They send it straight over DC. So
almost connecting them like Lego blocks that you're able
like
to pass through it. You connect them to it, and you've got that extra ability to share power.
Yeah, and then also when you've got the sites that are battery backed, you don't have to connect them all individually to the battery. You can just say, "Hey, I need these 3. They're connected to all of them. Let's get these 3 in," and then they will disperse the power to the rest of the site during an outage.
Yeah.
One thing I'm noticing here is that they also have lights built into this platform, which makes perfect sense.
Not something I've seen in practice yet, but I also haven't seen too many of the palletized V3 pluses like these ones. But on the
So even if this is like their plan for the next rev of it, it makes sense because you're going to have lighting there for people to park and see to plug in, and it also gives you a spot for the signage for EV only and that kind of stuff. So that's pretty cool.
And a place to put your Wi-Fi antenna and Starlink connection. I haven't seen, like I said, I've seen a lot of them that have poles, but none that were integrated like that. But again, I've only seen a handful of these ones deployed in person. The V3s, they generally didn't have anything extra. The red and white, but the black and whites, they're kind of honing them out. And then eventually we'll see a full V4 where it's a V4 cabinet and V4 dispensers. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, and I'm sure that Tesla's looking at the different areas that they're setting these up in, and they're probably picking the prefabs as often as they can based on site selection. Because if they can speed the deployment of this, it saves everybody time and money. And of course, the end user, us with our cars, get to have an extra site quicker. So it completely makes sense that they're looking to push the prefab, and they're probably making modifications to the prefab as well to make it work in more situations.
Yeah, as they learn stuff, or any of the people on the line, or any of the installers come up with anything, if it's a change that everybody agrees on, they put it in. If it didn't work, they take it back out. But for those places, you could stack a bunch of these together like Legos, but some of them are just on a time crunch, or there's just not enough output from Buffalo or Shanghai yet. So you'll see it's usually a permitting thing. Like, we need it to be extra beautiful this way, and so you'll see them do this kit. It arrives, and it's usually behind a construction chain link fence. It takes them forever to do because you got to put in these deep trenches to get this high capacity AC cabling in. Then you got to get the high capacity DC cabling in. Then you got to pour your concrete, get it all loaded up, and so all of that stuff you see on the left side is in that pallet. It's already ready to go. So all they have to do at that point is connect it to the site versus assemble it IKEA style.
Exactly. So again, not a surprise here. We've known about the prefabs for quite some time, but it was interesting to see a Tesla exec comment on the reason they're doing it. And of course, we've guessed at these answers anyways because it made sense. It's speed of delivery, it's cheaper, and it's something that allows them to be more effective. This particular division. So. And as mentioned, they're probably looking at other ways to expand this and allow it to hit other situations so more prefabs could be used as time goes along. Yep. With that, I think we will wrap it today. Casey, any shout-outs for the end of the show?
Yeah, catch us in 2 days for the Tesla Live. Same time, same place.
Exactly. If you haven't already, please give us a thumbs up. Press that subscribe button. We want to thank Lee Moon for the music we're using. And I haven't forgotten you, Patrick. Off to you.
As always, I'm with the Oregon Electric Vehicle Association. You can find us at oeva.org, and I blog occasionally at carswithcords.net, where I write about my future free from fossil fuels.
Perfect. With that, we will say goodnight to everyone, and we will catch you next time and find out what's happening in the Tesla Life.